Silent Hill has had quite the history with their release titles, predating back to Silent Hill on the PS1 in 1999, to then create iconic and memorable titles that would spawn the Team Silent games on the PS2, that everyone can come to consensus as their best work that solidifies Silent Hill, to end it all with the period of Silent Hill titles that would be met with mixed reception, if not, left to be avoided and not touched on for years to come. And here we are nowadays, with the likes of Silent Hill Ascension, this quote-unquote interactive game that is truly a return to format that we all have been wanting for the last decade. You may have thought you've seen it all from this franchise, but there is one thing that most people, even fans possibly, that have not ever heard of one of the most obscure Silent Hill games that's not even developed by Konami at all. Rather, a small indie team that are nothing but pure loyal fans that got inspired to take their own fresh take on the genre. This is Silent Hill Alchemilla. Silent Hill Alchemilla is a fan project created by developer White Noise Team, a mod utilizing the Source engine in an attempt to recapture the atmosphere of Silent Hill, but in their own unique and creative take. An original story that follows its own protagonists and the horrors that are left to be unveiled in iconic locations that revisit series past, that would immediately capture any fan's attention. To say White Noise Team took such creative liberties in fleshing out their visual flair in order to embody the atmosphere of the town of Silent Hill by crafting something new yet familiar is an understatement. Much of that inspiration is adopted into the story and gameplay of Silent Hill Alchemilla, and it's done flawlessly. From the beginning, as you wake up in your bedroom to venture in the home that you stay in, can immediately feel the soft and mellow ambience that you expect to find in any Silent Hill game. You feel safe and comfortable, but have that lingering dread that something is off, and that will only get progressively worse from here on out. An expectation we all inhibit from not just Silent Hill, but any horror game. This isn't done in a haste, but rather built up slowly, giving context clues by reading documents that gives insight into the lore that the developers built in that pertains to the protagonist, or interaction with the environment where the player gets the implication that something is more than it seems, by solely the dialogue the protagonist conveys. Little overlooked yet important details that play a contribution to building up this atmosphere. From mere speculation of the gameplay, the player can come to find that this game is purely first person. This may remind you of the Room 302 sequences while roaming the apartment, which also adopts the same camera angle. While obviously not intentional, it is a nice change of pace to interact with the environment in a new perspective than the aforementioned third-person fixed camera angle that you would typically find in a Silent Hill game. It feels more grounded and immersed in this horrifying environment that takes much influence from the likes of Silent Hill and the other world with locations such as Alchemilla Hospital, Silent Hill 2 in the apartments, or Silent Hill 3 in the mall center. Previous places that we all have visited that feel familiar, yet completely new and different, that can throw us off and make us reflect and think as how to proceed forward in this new lens. Much of the gameplay features interactivity with the environment, conducting such puzzles that will make you ponder and use much of your knowledge as to how to solve a certain puzzle in particular. This game makes it abundantly clear that much of your time will be exploration in these environments, yet will be utilizing puzzles as the sole foundation that creates much of the value that comes from the gameplay. Much of the puzzles can really make you think, such as the puzzle in Alchemilla Hospital, where you have to read memos to gain an understanding of a series of patterns that to be applied in a mathematical equation by problem solving. After doing the math, you can unlock a door that was previously inaccessible. This is not to say that all of the puzzles are predominant on this setup alone, rather to clarify that continuation to a new area will feature a catalyst of different puzzles to solve that will really mandate the player to think. It can be a hit or miss regarding how this feature of puzzles can be either a warm welcome to those who love the process of elimination, or a solution that really makes one think for an extensive amount of time and get that reward for achieving a problem that you are thinking upon minutes, if not over an hour. And there's the majority, like myself, who like a good puzzle every now and then, but feel overwhelmed and exhausted after spending lots of time solving it and then finding a plethora of puzzles right after the last one. It may come off to you that something feels off. Something that you may have expected to find but not question until I brought it up. That question in particular, where are the monsters? A valid question that I myself even questioned early on in gameplay once I got to the otherworld Alchemilla Hospital. One of the central and core elements that lay the foundation for Silent Hill, and not just its gameplay, but also providing that immersion into the atmosphere of Silent Hill as a whole, is left out. A sentiment that left me perplexed and pretty dumbfounded, to say the least, to find not remotely any monsters nor combat to be featured in this game. Without the enemies roaming the linear halls that we find ourselves enclosed in, it feels like much of the horror atmosphere is cracked a bit, because that sense of danger is non-existent. Utilizing such limited resources with your weapons, first aid, and other miscellaneous items is what gave that frantic gameplay that would always have the player on their feet. This allowed us to problem solve with scenarios we would play in our heads to see what outcome we would come up with that leads to a resolution. By trial and error, we come to learn from our mistakes, and unfortunately, that danger, that fear, is lost here. But to the developers' credit, they did go out and say that the implementation of enemies was not a creative decision, but rather a forced one that they had to resort to as the development time of this game had already been long enough, going on for years. Finding a developer who could help pitch in with such gameplay elements was too late and had to be shelved. It's a shame, but one that I can understand and empathize with, as game development, especially from an indie developer, is quite an extensive process that takes months to get down correctly. But even though that core feature doesn't pertain, there is the horror that makes the world of Silent Hill Alchemilla. The horror is nothing short of phenomenal. This perfectly captures the Silent Hill aesthetic we have all come to memorize by the surreal environments that leave the setting grim and decrepit, encapsulating that mood that populates each entry that feels familiar yet unique, and distinguished to give its own identity. Alchemilla Hospital is abandoned, isolated, and lonely, leaving only the player to themselves to roam the empty liminal halls of each floor to find sections blocked off, rooms that give the impression that someone used to be here, or how the environment feels like it conveys a story without any dialogue or explanation. These are just intricate details that incentivize the player to want to understand everything. It's not only seen here, but in other places you visit in Silent Hill. Green Lion Antique Shop contorts and corrupts the labyrinth that messes with your head. The mall center creates this dark atmosphere as a reflection of a populated area with sound and life. It's left empty with nothing but hollowness. Only our footsteps can fill in the void. And above all, our own home. A home in which we once had a family to create memories in is revealed to be an illusion by our own doing. A revelation that undoes everything that we strive to solve and uncover to get an answer that would give us hope. But in reality, it is only a lie to ourselves. In true psychological horror fashion, much of that is captured here with the protagonist, seeing the progression of this vengeful, yet hopeful man who blames Dr. Kaufman, a prominent character in Silent Hill, who manufactured and provided the drugs to Norman Wexler, the protagonist we've been playing as. Yet to uncover later on that the build-up to this payoff subverts our expectations, with Norman to be revealed as the one who killed his family. A devastating revelation that fuels that trauma, grief, and tragedy that would make anyone go insane to learn about once again. All of this comes crumbling down the further you progress up until you reach Alchemilla Hospital for the last time. The environment is not grotesque, with flesh plaguing the walls and floors, becoming more and more eroded the more you dive deeper into the mental state of Norman, a reflection of himself, as mirrors play a recurring theme throughout the game, a reflection of his inner self that is nothing but hatred, disgust, and sorrow. Previously seen environments that we once saw in fragmented pieces are now collected and restored as memories that were left forgotten for a reason. The ending to all of this is bleak, as Norman comes to find the family car that he drove his family and killed all of them in by stepping into the driver's seat to watch himself suffocate underwater as he drowns, only to wake up in his bedroom as if this was all another nightmare. But it's anything but that. Leaving his room, he finds Alchemilla once again, a repeating time loop of the horrors he once faced that he must continue to repeat all over again. A nightmare that will never end.
No one will save me. I'll just stay here.
Silent Hill Alchemilla is one of the most fascinating mods I have ever experienced. Even though I have mixed thoughts about the gameplay, I did find that most of my experience was enjoyable all the way through. The developers didn't take pre-existing assets or materials to copy and paste them to call it a day. They utilized what they had from scratch and used the resources to create and craft something new and unique that tells their own story. They didn't try to make a profound statement by creating a Silent Hill Konami couldn't make for over a decade, or make this project out of spite for the mishandled state that the franchise is left in. If anything, this is a love letter to Silent Hill, one that is worth experiencing. If you are interested in playing Silent Hill Alchemilla, I'll be leaving a link in the description below to the mod page, which will give you more information on the game itself. You will need Half-Life 2 as this is a source engine mod, but it's about $10 and fairly cheap to buy. It is even better on sale for only $1. I highly recommend playing this mod if you get the chance, as it pays tribute to Silent Hill by respecting the material and the franchise itself, and gives that authentic experience Silent Hill fans have been craving for years. It also fills in the gap between the Silent Hill transmission that has been silent for over a year and makes up for the disaster that was Silent Hill Ascension. So, if you want your Silent Hill fix for the time being, then I incentivize you to give it a try while we desperately wait for news. Maybe we might get something next year. I want to give a massive thank you to each and every one of you who discovered my channel recently and have watched all my videos, given your kind comments, and subscribed to stick around for the journey we have ourselves for years to come. I have been doing nothing but working on projects and always strive to deliver the best quality content I can provide that is professional, well-informed, and watchable for you as the viewer of each video I release. I care deeply about my content and I want to provide it in the best way I can for you all. Thank you for getting me to where I am currently on the channel. I am nothing but grateful for how far we've come in such a short amount of time. As this will be the last video for the year, I want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I hope to keep making more survival horror videos in the next year and hyperfixate on horror games I love dearly and share it with you all. But anyways, that is me. Thank you for watching, have a great day, stay safe, and goodbye.